Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to everybody joining our day one of this important symposium, marking the World Food Safety Days 2025. My name is Fadel Ndiame. I'm the CEO of Food System Transformation Solution, a member of the FCI for Africa, but also Food Safety for Africa program, a core coordinator of the FCI for Africa, Food Convergence Innovation for Africa. So as we all know, each year on June 7th, the world observes World Safety Day to raise awareness about the importance of food safety in ensuring health, economic prosperity, and sustainable development. It's a reminder that food safety is everybody's responsibility. Dr. Hans, as you would say, from farm to fork. And this, therefore, call to action for strongest system that prevent, detect, and respond to food safety risk. This year's themes, food safety, science in action, underscores the roles of science, the roles that science plays in shaping effective food safety policies and practices, especially in critical area here in Africa, where food systems are rapidly evolving. It also underpins not only public health and nutrition, but also livelihood, trade, and the stability of our food system. So I'll ask a first question: why are we here today? And as you all agree with me, we are here because across Africa, from informal food markets to high-level trade negotiation, we're facing growing challenges from microbial contamination to mycotoxin to regulatory fragmentation and climate-linked shocks. It is in this context that science is not optional, it is essential. It enables us to detect threat early, develop context-specific solutions, and inform better policies and practices. This symposium is a space where science meets action. It brings 4 EU-funded projects that I'm going to name very quickly: Food Safety for Africa, Uprise, HD4A, and FCI for Africa, which collectively span food safety, trade system, and health diet. But more importantly, it brings together the people who make this system work: researchers, innovators, policymakers, and emerging professionals across Africa and Europe. So what is the purpose of the symposium? 2 main objectives: to highlight the role of science in strengthening Africa's food safety system, particularly in informal markets, cross-border trade, and nutrition. So that's one of our primary objectives. The second objective is to foster collaboration, discussion among partners from these 4 projects, because science thrives not in isolation, but in dialogue. I think the format of this symposium speaks to that specific point. And earlier, before we started, Dr. Titilayo shared with me the list of participants. I'm quite impressed to say that we have more than 200 participants from all over the world. This is quite, and I would regularly ask for an update to see who is with us today. So to all the people who are attending this session, the symposium, I'm asking the following question: what are we aiming for? By the end of the session, we all should leave with a clearer understanding of the following. Number 1, the urgent food safety challenges facing Africa. I'll be listening to that in all your presentation. Number 2, how science tools and evidence are being used to address those challenges. Number 3, what is working and what is still needs to be done. And number 4, and how can we work better together to close these gaps. And we are happy that in today's session, we have real cutting-edge experts who will give us their insight project highlights, and a panel discussion that will dig deeper into the practical question that matters. And I have listed 3 of them. How do we apply science in complex, real science, real world setting? Secondly, how do we harmonize standards and scale solution? Number 3, more importantly, is how do we bring the next generation into this effort? As your moderator, I'll be guiding you through today's program, beginning with an opening remark from our EU project officials. That will be followed by, and I'm talking about Dr. Hans, we'll start with you. That will be followed by our colleague, our brother, Dr. Ayalew from the African Union Commission. And after these 2 foundational presentations, we will listen to the 4 projects will share with us an update of their progress. So with that, I want to thank you once again for joining us. Let us dive into this agenda and let us set the tone for a bold, informed conversation on food safety. So Dr. Hans, I'll start with you. I did some very quick due diligence to know who you are. I mean, I'm now summarized here, but I think 2 points I want to highlight. You have been in this game for a long time and held important position. So talk to us about the significance of this event and some of the learning that you have seen through over the years that should inform the momentum of the symposium and moving forward. So the floor is for you, Dr. Hans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fadel, for your nice welcoming words, and good afternoon, good morning to all of you on behalf of the European Commission, DG Research and Innovation. Next slide, please. I would like to outline the context in which we are funding the cluster of projects on food safety, but also the larger projects in the food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture partnership, which we call FNSSA, and some of the steps, next steps to be expected. Next slide, please. So the FNSSA partnership has actually set a roadmap 2016 to 2026. And within this roadmap, it was possible actually to mobilize from the European Commission different budget lines, but also from EU and AU member states, a budget of 700 million euros and 300 projects along the 4 objectives of the roadmap: sustainable intensification, agriculture and food systems for nutrition, trade, and cross-cutting topics. Next slide, please. As you see, 2026 is approaching soon. So we are currently starting a process of roadmap renewal, and we will soon launch calls for experts actually to help us in this process. And then the cluster of projects on EU-Africa food systems is informed by the FNSSA roadmap in the EU-AU partnership, but it's also informed by the research and innovation policy framework, which we actually have designed for Horizon Europe funding in DG Research and Innovation, and also jointly linking to DG Agriculture and DG International Partnerships. And with this food system approach, we try to solve or to pursue for all projects co-benefits for nutrition, climate, circularity, food safety, and innovation. Next slide, please. And in this Food 2030 pathways for action, mainly the focus is on Europe, but we have pathway 9, which is actually food systems Africa. And within this pathway 9, we are funding these joint collaborative projects between the EU and Africa, but they are also informed by all the other pathways. And there is one pathway 8, food safety systems of the future. But again, a pathway 8 mainly linked to Europe and developing actually tools for the European food safety, or collaborating closely also with European Food Safety Authority. Next slide, please. And it's great that you have an event actually getting the cluster of.
Please, can I ask you to mute when you're not speaking, colleague? Ayala, please mute your mic, please. Thank you. So, Dr. Hans. Yes, sorry, guys.
I just want to inform you about, let's say, the other clusters, which are also bringing added value in maybe working together, having maybe joint seminars, joint workshops. So 3 projects started in 2020 on Food Systems Africa. They're coming to an end or have already ended. Or, one is Food Africa, Healthy Food Africa, and Foodland. Next slide, please. Then we had a cluster of projects actually linking rural areas to food systems in cities. Fadel mentioned the informal markets, from informal markets to trade. And the In-Cities Food, AfriFood links, Healthy Diets for Africa are projects which are working with food city labs, for example, improving food environments to make healthy food available to citizens, but also in rural areas. And there is also opportunities actually for joining workshops or conferences with these 3 projects. Next slide, please. And then the actually target of today, or the Uprise and Food Safety for Africa, 4 projects actually, 2 projects actually looking in particular on food safety, and we will talk more about it during our seminar, during our symposium. Next slide, please. And then the 2 last projects actually looking at trade, and a basic ingredients of trade is trust. And trust is actually built through food safety among all partners who are trading. And therefore, very important, our symposium actually, how you put it, Fadel, from science to action, and opportunities actually to improve trust in trade relations. Next slide. And next slide. Maybe a glance also to the future. So we just published a work program 2025 on 15th of May. Next slide, please. And there's one topic in, let's say, Food Systems Africa, which is very specific. It's nutrition in emergency situations. Ready-to-use supplements to food and ready-to-use therapeutic food. Actually, our colleagues in DG INPA and DG ECHO outlined that often emergency food is imported while Africa has all ingredients to produce it on the continent, and therefore this topic is actually aimed at boosting ready-to-use food supplementary production in Africa. Deadline for proposals is mid of September next year. Next slide. And yeah, thank you for your attention, and looking forward for interesting discussions and presentations during our symposium. Back to you. Fadel.
Thank you so much, Hans, and thank you for bringing back the vision, the trajectory since 2019 and even before, but also the consistency and the build-up to really front science and innovation and support, as you said, trust building, food safety, and trade. And I think these are going to be important feature of the conversation we'll have in the next 2 hours. Dr. Thank you so much. So we're happy that you got out of your vacation to speak to us. Thank you so much. I also want to acknowledge if you allow me, our project officers, Celine Doneas.
Forget about my name. Celine is fine.
Celine, okay, I can say Dondeas. How did I do this time? Donde is nice. Donde is nice.
Dondenas, but
Donde nice, Celine. We're so happy that you are here. Thank you so much. Alina, also we're happy that you are with us. So we appreciate your support and your guidance through this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, I want now to move to our colleague and brother, Dr. Amare Ayalew, who basically, I'm so happy to see you, my brother, because since the last time we spoke, the African Union has officially adopted the Food Safety Regulatory Agency for the continent. And I want to congratulate you personally because of the work I know you at PACA and at the African Union you have been doing. So the floor is yours to share with us your wisdom and your reflection on this important symposium. So over to you, Dr. Amare.
Thanks very much, Dr. Fadel, for that introduction. Let me share my slide. As I do share my slide, let me say I started working at the African Union 12 years ago, exactly to the day, June 4th. And during this time, I hope you can see my slides now.
It's coming. Yeah, now we can see it. Thank you.
So during this time, during the last 12 years, I have actually witnessed the increasing prioritization of food safety as the African Union, of course, globally as well. And as someone who has been part of this gradual but important process, I'll try to share with you by focusing on institution building for food safety in the continent. But first, a very quick background. As many of you know, Africa is disproportionately impacted by unsafe foods. A very good example is 1/3 of the global mortality due to foodborne disease occurs in Africa, with just 16% of the world population. What that means is about twice as high as the rest of the world we have burden, and also the economic impact is huge. So in the AU and also working with different partners, we have done different studies on what the possible challenges might be for improving food safety. And they boil down to institutional challenges, which is poor food safety governance, limited knowledge and information, but also weak implementation capacities. To address these challenges, of course, we need sustained long-term efforts, which are led by strong institutions. We cannot possibly address these challenges using fragmented, scattered, and episodic responses. So along this line, I'll share with you what is happening at the AU by focusing on the new Africa Food Safety Agency and its Food Safety Data Hub. And I'll also try to throw some ideas on the future of food safety, which might be of interest to the next generation food safety practitioners in the continent. So as you have mentioned, Dr. Fadel, in a very landmark decision in February of this year, the African Union Assembly of Heads of State and Government has adopted the establishment of the Africa Food Safety Agency, which is a great thing. And I'll try to tell you a little bit about what has informed this decision, what the mandate of the agency will be, what comes next to make it functional or operational, and what does it mean to each one of us, and what can each one of us do to make the agency a successful institution. Of course, this is a move in the right direction, but I would say very late. It is delayed. As you could see here, the African Union Inter-Africa Bureau for Animal Resources was established in 1951. Actually, it predates even the OAU, the Organization of African Unity, and that was followed by the Inter-Africa Phytosanitary Council, the Plant Health Institution, which was established in 1954. Then a long time passed, and food safety was coming to the radar of the AU. In 2012, the Partnership for Aflatoxin Control was established by focusing on aflatoxin control, but of course, supporting very broad food safety and SPS responsibilities. And it took 12 or 13 years after that to come up with the Africa Food Safety Agency just this year. And of course, the agency is not even operational yet. So to tell you very quickly what has informed this decision to establish the Africa Food Safety Agency, first of all, it is evidence. More compelling evidence was coming on the impact of food safety, on the competitiveness of African agri-food systems, the public health, the trade, and even the agriculture and food security impact was becoming clear, at least to some extent. And with our policymakers also, there was a recognition that a number of key continental commitments, whether it is a CADP, the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, or the Single Market Initiative, the AFCFTA, or even the Agenda 2063 for the Africa we want, could not be effectively achieved without ensuring food safety. So this recognition was very important to finally, get the adoption of the establishment of the agency. And of course, this didn't happen overnight. There were earlier decisions and recommendations from different ministerial conferences, but also the Food Regulatory Authorities Forum, which met in Cairo in 2023. All of those were very important. And of course, the stakeholder consultations that were undertaken by the African Union Commission on the value addition of the agency, the roles, the mandates, and which were really timely communicated with policy organs. Those were very, very important. So it didn't happen overnight, and of course, a lot of work has gone into making this adoption a reality. Then to move on to what this agency will do in terms of its mandate. I'm talking about the statutory mandates of the agency, what the AU policy organs, what the Assembly has adopted. The agency will have 6 main objectives. The first one will be, of course, modernization and harmonization of food safety policies, strategies, and regulation. Harmonization will be key. The second one is coordination of food safety initiatives continentally. By the way, here, without duplicating with the coordination roles of the regional economic communities. This has to be clear, but this will be another important objective. And strengthening also member state capacity in the area of food control performance. This will be important as well. And food safety data and food risk-related information availability, use, and also serving as a central risk assessment center for the continent. This is another important objective. Consumer and industry awareness is key. And finally, of course, coordinating the implementation of the food safety strategy for Africa, the current one, but also any future, upcoming strategies. So these 6 objectives have been adopted, to guide the mandates of the Africa Food Safety Agency. I wouldn't go into the details of the functions of the agency. The agency will have 10 statutory functions. By the way, I will share you in other slides a link to the publication from AU Commission, which has all of these details. But these functions also are mirrors of the objectives I have tried to share. So let me skip these slides. But anyone who is interested to read the details, I'll give you the link to the publication with all of this. Then I think it will be important for our audience to know what comes next. As I said, the agency is not functional today. It has been established technically, legally, it has been established, but functionally, it's not yet there. So the AU is trying to pursue a comprehensive institution building approach to make this agency a reality. So there are three components. One is, of course, the institution establishment. Then we have also another kind of pillar on developing the strategic resources for the agency. And while doing that, of course, also building the capacity of stakeholders and also engaging them. We will follow these three components. Maybe to give a little bit more detail about the institution setup, because this might be of interest, especially to our listeners from member states. The first thing that the AU will do with regard to this will be to request for expression of interest from member states. So member states are now, they have the right to bid to host the agency. That's the first step. And side by side to that, we'll also work with our policy organs to get adoption of the final structure to make the agency functional. And we will negotiate, AU will negotiate host country agreement, and that will be hopefully concluded before the end of this year or early next year. And the last step will be to set up a secretariat. So the staff hiring following AU procedures, rules and procedures. So this hopefully will be completed before the middle of next year, or at least most of it, except the hiring of staff. In terms of strategic resources, we're talking about a continental food safety data hub, rapid alert and traceability system, a risk assessment center, but also a medium-term strategic plan. So these are also another important area which will not have to wait until the establishment of the secretariat. And of course, rallying the continent around the food safety, around the agency through stakeholder awareness campaigns, but also building the capacity of food control authorities in member states. All of these three components will proceed side by side, hopefully. Maybe very quickly, in terms of what this agency means to different stakeholders. By the way, the link for the publication I was talking about is here for those of you who are interested to read more about the functions. By the way, most of this is included in that publication. So AU member states have the most to benefit from this agency, of course, in terms of coordination, in terms of sharing experience and capacity, in terms of leveraging on each other's funding for the agency. One country doesn't have to fund it. the regional economic communities also will benefit a lot. Trading partners will not have to deal with a multitude of standards. Hopefully, after some years, we'll have some rationality and harmonization in food safety standards. Development and technical partners also will hopefully have reduced transaction costs and will have the opportunity to invest their funds and expertise in long-term impactful work. And of course, the general public and the consumers will benefit from all of that and from a sustainable improvement in food safety. Of course, each one of us has also a role to make this agency successful. EU member states, again, bear most of the burden. They have to, first of all, actively participate to host the agency. We know some member states have a strong interest already, and they have also to support the policy organs to speed up the adoption of the structures and so on, but a strong political and financial commitment, and even expediting data sharing protocol for the continent, food safety data sharing protocol. All of these will be very, very important roles from member states to make this agency meaningful. Regional economic communities, UN agencies, development partners, research, academia, civil society organizations have also very important roles to play And as I said, you may read about these details in the publication I have referred to. To move a little bit to topics that are of direct relevance to this discussion, to the World Food Safety Day theme of the year, I would like to also introduce the Africa Food Safety Data Hub very briefly again. By the way, not only because of that, but because it's also a very strategic resource to make the Food Safety Agency meaningful again. So for that, let me, Dr. Fadel, allow me to take a few minutes to introduce this. I'll be very brief. The Africa Food Safety Data Hub as one of the strategic objectives and functions of the agency will be established by the AU. The AU has done some work I will introduce you later, but the aim of the Food Safety Data Hub will be to support Africa-specific data generation and use, but also to support evidence-based food safety in the continent, to boost inter-Africa trade within the context of the AFCFTA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and of course serve as a foundation for the Food Safety Agency. These are high-level objectives of the Food Safety Data Hub. So the AU has already developed an architecture as to how to establish the Food Safety Agency. So in this architecture, there are a lot of details, but let me tell you a little bit about the basic features of the architecture, because some of you might have more background in these areas, and you might even comment on this, maybe send feedback to the AU Commission. So basically, the Food Safety Data Hub will follow a hybrid agile waterfall methodology so that it becomes, it is built gradually and becomes very flexible, so that it becomes, gradually built for flexibility. The other is it will be using cloud-based architecture, and the data priorities are mentioned here. There will be a dedicated core team of food safety experts, data scientists, IT experts, and data quality engineers. And the plan or the architecture is to move it to a cost recovery model. Of course, initially, it has to be supported by the AU and hopefully its partners. It will have two components, the data unit and the risk assessment center. And it will play three different roles: data generation for risk assessment capacity, research and training, and of course, international and regional networking. So within the continent, of course, the RECs, the Food Regulatory Authorities Forum, and so on will be important partners. So I don't think I have time to go into details. Initially, when this Food Safety Data Hub starts, it will focus on data generation on known food safety hazards within the continent, but also on harmonizing existing data, working in collaboration to generate more Africa-specific food consumption data, which is not available within the continent that much, and also focus on the informal traditional sector, capacity building, international collaboration. By the way, Dr. Fadel, let me add one thing here. This Food Safety Data Hub was informed by the chronic problems with regard to data from the continent. Even the monumental WHO 2015 report on global burden of foodborne disease has a lot of gaps and challenges when it comes to data from Africa. So this data hub will be really an important resource for the Food Safety Agency and the continent. Of course, we anticipate several challenges to make this data hub a reality. But let me also highlight a little bit about the two projects, sister projects, we call them. I'm sorry, I'm missing the other two because we work very closely as African Union Commission and AUDNA part with these two projects. But I think this might apply also to the other projects. What we have learned is these projects exemplify the role of collaboration, not only within the continent, but also globally to tackle complex food safety challenges. And they have a lot to offer in terms of generating knowledge, in terms of addressing the informal sector, and so on. And they directly contribute to the food safety strategy of Africa and the mandates I have mentioned for the Food Safety Agency. So closing to the end of my presentation, to say a few things about where we see the future of food safety will be, how the food safety is actually progressing and what are the emerging things. The first thing is we have no choice, but we have to embrace the evidence-based and data-driven approaches. This applies to our member states, institutions, individual experts. This is a way to go. The other is coordination, collaboration, and sharing capacities. This is also another important development. Food safety globally can be improved only if we work together, and food safety is pre-competitive. You cannot compete in food safety, whether in trade or whether among countries. And the last thing is, of course, to recognize also the importance of recent technologies such as blockchain, digitalization, the Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence, and so on, but also important methods such as whole genome sequencing and the improvements in chemical analysis. All of this will be crucial. So for the new generation professionals, it will be very important to strategically place yourselves, by embracing these developments. So finally, to end with quick messages. First of all, building African institutions is very important to sustainably address food safety challenges. Institution building is important in anything that has to do with governance. But food safety is probably an important area where institutions are critical. And of course, for this, there is no single institution that can address Africa's food safety challenges. So multiple institutions have to be strengthened. The Africa Food Safety Agency emerges as one important one, as a game changer, if it is supported very well and if there are commitments from member states and partners. And the other thing is ongoing and new initiatives in food safety within the continent. We should try to demonstrate the support to the statutory mandates of the agency. I think this will be very important. And I think I have already stressed the importance of the Food Safety Data Hub and the importance of embracing new technologies and working together by the future food safety workforce. And finally, the African Union Commission, I know, welcomes collaborations and partnerships to drive home the Africa Food Safety Agency. Thank you very much for your kind attention and for the opportunity to share this information. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Fadel.
Thank you very much, my brother, Dr. Amare Ayalew. So you did a fantastic job in 16 minutes. And I think you really set the stage for a very, very interesting conversation, just by reminding us the trajectory, what it took to come to this monumental, time of the launch of the African Food Safety Agency after all, so many years. And I think the key pillar that you have highlighted as building block of a functional food system agency. I know we are moving toward the project, the panel discussion. But before that, I wonder if I could ask Dr. Hans to come back just for 2 minutes, if he's still around. Just a quick reflection on what this itinerary, this journey, I'm sure you observe it also from a distance. Can you make a parallel of what you did in Europe? What it took to build that whole ecosystem of food safety. What would be your very quick observation from Dr. Ayalew presentation priority setting?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. I think there are many ingredients actually in the outline Dr. Ayalew has given, which are, let's say, ingredients of success or are essentials. I think in particular building a food safety culture from the bottom with various components actually spread among localities, regions, member states, and from that actually the collective effort of African Food Safety Authority. So not something actually which will be implemented in all its possibilities overnight, but it's a path actually, and you outlined very well the pathway. And this is a similarity with EFSA in Europe actually, that it's also an approach, learning by science actually, with scientific inputs. So these just a few words. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. So I'm also encouraging colleagues to contribute and ask questions in the chat box that we'll review regularly, and ask Dr. Amare to come back and provide some insight. But thank you very much for really a powerful scene-setting presentation. With that now, I think we're ready to move to the next session. I think we have an opportunity to listen to the 4 projects. And to the point you're making earlier, Amare, you referenced 2 of them, but probably all the 4 can be inspired and by your presentation as, what are we doing currently that is addressing some of the challenges that you highlighted? What insight, what gain, what progress I've made in the data play, for instance, around this data hub, and how do you foresee the collaboration across jurisdiction, from the consumers to the continent, through the regs, and then it's quite a complex build-up, but this is what it takes to build a continental agency. So with that, we are pleased to start. I'll do a very quick intro of our 4 brilliant panelists. I have to say, I went through your bios, all of you. Dr. Titilayo, I still can't believe that you have over 20 years of work experience in various fields, including management consulting, environmental advisory services, food safety, and plant pathology. You are currently a scientist at IITA, managing several of our projects. Maybe you are also coordinating our Food Safety for Africa multi-partner consortium that is funded by the EU Horizon. We also have a beautifully introduced Professor Sarah de Sage. I mean, I will apologize for mispronouncing some name, but you just bear with me. You are a head of the Center of Excellence in Mycotoxicology and Public Health, senior food professor at Ghent University in Belgium, distinguished visiting professor at the University of Johannesburg in South Africa, Pretoria. You also coordinate the international thematic network of MyTox and project coordinator of this EU-funded project, Uprise. The third panelist or speaker is going to be Prof. Dr. Michael Frey. You are a professor of crop physiology and head of the Department of Plant Breeding at Justus Liebig University in Germany. And your research focus on improving resilience of crops, particularly rice. I mean, we love rice in West Africa, I can tell you, to environmental stress, such as drought, heat, high ozone levels, with an emphasis on physiological and molecular responses. And the 4th panelist would be Dr. Shifreu Feleke, who is a senior agricultural economist at IITA, based in Tanzania, and your work focuses on the economics of agricultural innovation, technology adoption, and sustainable development in sub-Saharan Africa. So we are privileged to have such a capable and talented group of presenter. Maybe we'll start with you, Dr. Titilayo, to give you your update, your highlight, but be mindful of some of the questions raised by both Dr. Hans Jörg and by Dr. Amare. Bring out what you're doing now that will speak to those key challenges and opportunities. So over to you, Dr. Titilayo.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Fadel, for this kind introduction. And I really must thank our other projects for this wonderful opportunity to collaborate, and the European Commission and the African Union Commission for the support and for this partnership that has been exemplified in funding this EU Horizon project. So I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about our project and the highlights that we've had. I put here on the front cover just a photo that we took during our kickoff meeting. And today we're going to be talking about some of the things that we have achieved over time. But first of all, I want to talk about who we are and what our mission is. The Food Safety for Africa Consortium is a consortium of 16 partners from Africa, Europe, and North America. And we come with a diverse range of skills. It's a multidisciplinary team and a very strong team. I feel very privileged to be given the opportunity to coordinate this consortium. And I'm very proud of our work and the outputs that we are providing on food safety. Our vision and approach is to, first, our vision is to develop innovative approaches that look at convergence, look at strategies that can apply to the informal sector, that exemplify some of what we are hearing from the AU and EU about partnerships towards promoting food safety. And we have 4 main approaches that I itemized over in bullet points for developing innovative concepts, strategies, systems. And we're hoping that these innovations will stimulate the dominant informal food systems that we have in Africa, but do not receive sufficient attention as the formal systems do when it comes to food safety, policies, guidelines, and so on. And we're doing this through implementation of use cases. We have 4 use cases in this project. We'll be talking more about those later on. And in these use cases, we're developing strategies, trialing, and making iterative improvements to some of the technologies and techniques that we are developing. Another key output from our project is digitalization, and this includes use of artificial intelligence and other digital strategies for incorporating knowledge, collating knowledge, and sharing them across the food safety systems, including in the informal sector. And then you would see that the 4th one is about incubating, accelerating, and upscaling solutions for sustainability and impact through innovation hubs. And I would like to mention that we have announced recently a call for an open call that is working towards contributing to this. Now, what is the scale of the food safety challenge and how are we addressing it? Dr. Amare has mentioned some of it, and this is gone. You would hear this repeatedly this period of the World Food Safety Day about the scale of the problem of foodborne diseases in the continent and globally. So it's estimated that 1 in 10 people fall ill every year, and this is a conservative estimate of people that fall ill from foodborne diseases. Unfortunately, the highest burden of this is in Africa. We have 137,000 deaths annually from this within the continent. And you see how this compares to the global estimate of 420 deaths. And in Africa, we have 91 million cases, 91 million cases of foodborne diseases. And you can see how this compares to the 600 million that occurs globally. And this affects our well-being, our economies, and it's something that we need to address. Within the Food Safety for Africa project, we are implementing across the continental region. So in West Africa, there are 3 countries. In East Africa, there's Kenya, Central Africa, Cameroon, North Africa. Egypt is an implementation country, and South Africa for the Southern Africa region. And the food hazards of focus in the Food Safety for Africa project include looking at coliform contamination with particular focus on Escherichia coli, which our partners in South Africa are looking at. We're also interested in studies for food fraud, heavy metals, mycotoxins, and pesticide residues. I'm really looking forward to the rich discussions we'll hear from the early career and young scientists tomorrow during the poster sessions, where some of this information will be shared. Now we have strategies globally for food safety. We have policies for the global strategy for food safety, and we have a policy for Africa spanning till 2036. And there's a gap with the informal sector. There's really not one policy or range of policies that is sufficiently addressing this gap. And this continues to contribute to the high impact of foodborne diseases on our well-being and our economies. Now, some of the activities that the project has been addressing are put in this one slide just to highlight just a few of the achievements. And on the top left, you see that I've indicated stakeholder engagement and mapping. And there's a photo there of a meeting held in Ghana, where stakeholders from across sectors, public, private, research institutions gathered, and their engagements or their interactions with food safety have been mapped. And we can hear more about that during the panel discussion. We're also ensuring that as we develop solutions and approaches and systems, we don't do it independent of the informal sector. So we are using techniques of co-creation for context-specific solutions, engaging with local government actors, grassroots leaders, grassroots members of the society to make sure that the solutions fit the context of the informal sector actors. We're keen on ensuring that we develop and disseminate resources that are available to reach the informal sectors in the languages they understand. Language in terms of simplicity, in terms of visuals, but also in terms of the actual language of speech or of writing. So there's translation done to the fact sheets that have been developed for the 4 use cases and the resource materials that we are developing. Additionally, we try to reach another language that is often put in a lower cadre, and that's sign language. So in some of the countries, we try to ensure that we meet populations of people with hearing impairments by ensuring that we include sign language instructions and guidelines for those who are not able to hear during our sessions. There's front package labeling that's happening with one of our use cases, and this is intended to inform consumers and other actors about the safety of food, whether it relates to polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons or heavy metals, and targeted at fish. And in this use case, our partners have developed a QR-coded system in which you buy a package of fish product and you can scan the code and get an awareness of the safety of that food. And we're seeing how that is influencing behavior, but it's definitely contributing to increased awareness of safety. There are on-farm trials and capacity development happening in farms in Kenya and across other parts of the continent. And these are testing technologies that are being bundled. There's capacity development, there's knowledge being gained in these communities on farm. There's capacity development also for informal sector players beyond the farm. So whether they're traders or logistics service providers, all of these are some of the things that we are doing. In line with our theme for this symposium, there's support to students for their academic research. And this is an important contribution that this project is making. We're collecting samples, analyzing them, generating results. And Dr. Amare mentioned about the dearth of information with regards to data and evidence. And this is something that we're generating in this project with samples being collected in focus group discussions, with the interactions we're having from the policy engagements. We're learning more and more about the informal sector, what would fit the informal sector context, and what are some of the ways that we can contribute to improvements in food safety in this sector. There's establishment of innovative platforms where stakeholders have been gathered in very unique style, including in dance and drama, as our partner in University of Pretoria is doing. We're also representing the project in professional meetings across the world, sharing our insights, engaging in networking opportunities, learning about how we can bridge the gaps that we have and how we can strengthen our relationships within the continent and across the continent. There's interaction with governments at all levels. We do realize that we need to meet the informal sector, so we are reaching governments at the informal sector, but at the same time mentioning the needs of this sector to those at higher levels of government, whether it's state governments, regional governments, national governments. So there's a lot that's going on, and I would encourage us to follow our project via the website and social media handles to learn about some of the things that we're doing and participate in events like this. Some of the innovative approaches include the development of a mezzanine system, which is like a midway system between the formal and informal sector. We want to develop a system that's somewhere in between that can help us to address these food safety challenges as we climb the ladder upwards to a more advanced system. I've mentioned the QR-coded food safety information and the bonding innovation and evidence generation. I'd also like to mention that we're developing a directory of food safety actors, and this is something that will fit very well with the plans of the African Food Safety Agency and help us to integrate the knowledge and the information we have into the Commission. There's a Food Safety Knowledge Hub, which is a very innovative technology that we have developed within this project, and I'll be sharing in the next few slides how you can access that system. It's AI enabled. It's I like to call it the ChatGPT of food safety. Information about food safety has been curated by experts, and only information that is identified to be true and useful are included on that platform, so that you're not getting fake news or improper information from this system. We've done a lot of sensitizations and capacity developments, and these are going on. We've signed MOUs, including with the projects and letters of intent with projects that are participating in this symposium today, Uprise, FCI for Africa, and HD4A. And these strategic partners enable us to work together to bring ideas, to bridge the gaps that we identify, to share opportunities. And I think this is the way to go. This is the future, and this is the present that is growing. I'd like to move to the next slide, please. So I mentioned that we have 4 use cases in this project. The first use case looks at aflatoxin management and using a food convergence innovation approach. That is one that our partners from McGill have been, along with FSTS, which Fadel leads, pushing this need to break silos and to include connectivity between partners. And there's also the use case 2, looking at the reduction in the use and misuse of pesticides. And we've got Hans shared some of the systems that exist, like the rapid alert system. And this is something that we are hoping that the African Food Safety Agency, as Dr. Amare has said, would include, and we'll have that kind of system. And as Amare said, this would enable us generate data for the continent. But from the data we have from the European Commission, we see that some of our products from Africa are rejected because of the misuse of pesticides or because of aflatoxin contamination. And so these are what the first 2 use cases are addressing. The third use case is ensuring that we have safe and healthy vegetables and fish production through online platform and mobile communication. And this is part of what the QR-coded system on the front label packaging for fish is embedded in this use case. And an aquaponics system that enables the growth of agriculture in the urban sector in an organic way is also within this use case. And in use case 4, our partners in University of Victoria are leading the efforts towards microbial quality of tomatoes and leafy greens from farm to fork. And in addition to generating evidence, we're also bringing advancements to solutions. Next, I'd like to share some of the resources that you can already access that can give you some more information about what we have been doing so far. Last year, together with the African Union and IUDA NEPAD, we had a symposium, and the key takeaways from that symposium and the call to action are within this document that has been published. The QR code and the web link are indicated in this. And in the next slide, following that symposium, we're very glad to hear of this announcement from the African Union, and are happy to see that this is in force and the implementation is soon to commence. Now, the knowledge platform that I mentioned earlier, here is a link via the QR code that you can use to access this knowledge platform. It has information about solutions. It has curated data relevant for food safety. You can just type in a question like you do on ChatGPT, and get not just the information needed, but the references to this information, which are from curated sources. We'll move to the next slide. We've also developed some fact sheets that have been translated to multiple languages, including European and African languages. And this is providing access to information across the continent. So it's Arabic, it's Kiswahili, it's Yoruba, it's Hausa, it's Zulu. This is one way that we can make sure that our messages are not restricted to one region of the world. And it includes French for our Anglophone brothers and sisters. Francophone, I beg to say. Yesterday, I'm proud to mention that yesterday we had this published, a policy brief from Work Package 1, looking at policy, and gives an overview of the legal and institutional environment for food safety management in the informal sector in Africa. In the interest of time, I would encourage you to read this and gain. There was a lot of information to gain from this. Again, I would like to mention we have announced our first open call, and this will enable us to scale some of the technology. So please do look at this and see how you can get access to third-party funding that can help you to make your own contributions to food safety. So who are some of our next-gen professionals? I'll go very briefly now because I know time is running, but we do have 7 students. We have them from natural sciences and social sciences, masters and PhD students studying in Africa, Europe, and with support from institutions in Africa, Europe, and North America. They're looking at generating data, exploring options for decontaminations using innovative strategies, conducting risk assessments, they're investigating bundling strategies for existing solutions, they're studying the roles of governance and digitization in food safety. I think we're very lucky to have these bright minds as part of our team, and there's so much that we would gain from their studies. So in the next slide, I will be sharing links to which you can interact with us on the different social media handles. I would encourage you to subscribe to the newsletter and also to join the Food Safety Knowledge Hub platform. As a food safety knowledge professional, you can also interact with others on that platform. So it's also a networking tool. Let's continue to contribute to food safety efforts and explore collaborative opportunities. And with that, I think we've come to the end, and I'd like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Titilayo. I'm tempted to ask people to give a round of applause, but we are not done yet. Great presentation. I think just if I make it, just compare it to the first 2 presentations, we're starting to see some of the possible answers to the issue raised by the 2 presenters. A culture of food safety, in your case, speaking both to the formal and informal sector, embracing the senior researcher, but also providing space for the younger generation, but also addressing some of the institutional building challenges that Dr. Amare has raised with the start of the African Continental Free Trade Area. So we will get back to that, and I'm asking Dr. Amare to be ready because I'll ask her to react to your presentation after we hear from Professor Sarah. Good to see you again, Prof. Sarah. I think we met last year, and I remember asking you what surprised you from Dr. Titilayo's presentation. But today I will not ask that question. I'll just ask you to go straight into your own presentation, and we will see what the convergence are. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fadel. I'm trying to share my screen, but I cannot share it now. Okay, so now it should be working. Okay, I think you can see my screen now. So yes, thanks a lot for this very nice introduction. And thanks, that we have for this very nice meeting that has been organized by the 4 projects all together. So first of all, I would like indeed to introduce our Uprise project, which is the EU-AU partnership on resilient, inclusive and safe food systems for all. So this is indeed a project financed by Horizon Europe, through the Farm to Fork call, which was a call devoted to the collaboration between the EU and the AU on food safety. And you can see that this project indeed is coordinated from Ghent University, Belgium, and that we have different partners in EU and AU. So in Europe, we have Italy, France, and the Netherlands, while in Africa, we have Kenya, Nigeria, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, and South Africa, where we are performing field work. Also, we have the very strong partnership with the African Union Development Agency, ADA-NEPAD, in which also PACA is very closely involved. And finally, we have our communication partner, ADS Insight in Belgium. So this project is a 4-year project, and we've started last year, 2024. So as we all know, food safety is a very, very broad topic, but for Uprise, we have decided to focus on one of the major food safety issues, which are mycotoxins. And indeed, we know that mycotoxins are toxic fungal secondary metabolites, which are present in many different crops all over the world, mostly in plant-based foods, but also in animal feed. And through contaminated animal feed, mycotoxins can also appear in milk, for instance. So there are many different mycotoxins because there are also many different fungi that can produce mycotoxins. But in Uprise, we are targeting what we call the big 5 of the mycotoxins, which is first of all the very toxic liver carcinogen, the aflatoxins, followed by kidney carcinogen ochratoxin A, and then others like deoxynivalenol, zearalenol, and fumonisins. Now, the project is organized through 5 different building blocks. The first one is to develop a roadmap for a shared quality culture and integration of the informal sector in the African food safety system. So yes, just like the focus of food safety for Africa being the informal sector, also for Uprise, this is the sector that we are targeting. Why? Because, of course, to address food safety in a system with limited infrastructure and capacity is really challenging. And here we are really trying to increase understanding of food safety in this informal sector. Also, through the project, we assess and recommend ways to promote and maximize the informal sector's participation into the more formal food system. As a second building block, we would like to strengthen the food safety regulatory framework, both in formal and informal sectors, and this in focus on mycotoxins. Of course, here we closely collaborate with ADA-NEPAD and with PACA, and in the future with the Africa Food Safety Agency, because here we are trying to implement regulatory food safety frameworks, mainly on the level of the informal sector, of the small businesses. Also, what we are doing, and what is of course also very big interest for the African Food Safety Agency, is that we are working on the improvement of tools for risk assessment. As a third building block, we are developing early warning systems to prevent mycotoxin contamination, and this in view of climate change. As a fourth building block, we are focusing on food processing. More specifically, we are targeting the use of food fermentation, which is, of course, a very traditional way for food processing and for improving nutrition in the food. So, but what we know is that food fermentation might also be able to reduce mycotoxin levels in food. And that's what we are also investigating in Uprise. Finally, as a fifth building block, this is about co-creation, training and mentoring, because of course it is very important that we train the informal sector towards compliance with food safety. And this is something, of course, we cannot do alone. So we have an important multi-actor approach in our Uprise project, in which we involve a wide range of food system actors. I will come back to that later. Now, also on this slide, you can see a picture of a training that we already provided this year in Johannesburg. And here you can see the different PhD students which are involved in Uprise that were trained in the rapid detection of mycotoxins. So on this slide, you can then see the complete project structure with the different building blocks that all together will result in an improved food safety system for all end users in Africa. Now, in the middle of this picture, you see a very important aspect of our project, and this is called the accelerator platform. Indeed, I already talked about the importance of the multi-actor approach, and we have organized this in this way. So here you can see what is the purpose of the accelerator platform. So we all know that many projects, many research projects create a lot of knowledge, but sometimes this knowledge is not implemented where it should be. So we know that as researchers, we cannot do this alone. So we need stakeholders who help us to bring the knowledge towards the implementation phase. And that's what we do with the accelerator platform. Besides that, we also are developing Uprise training hubs. So in each of the 5 African countries, we are establishing a specific training hub on food safety and mycotoxin mitigation. Now, this accelerator platform, it's, let's say, a living platform. So it's still possible for other stakeholders to join. But till now, we have actors from different organizations and institutes. For instance, we have from each country, we have the African authorities that are working on food safety. We have consumer organizations, farmer organizations, mentoring organizations. We also collaborate with other international projects and consortia, for instance, Food Safety for Africa. We have our business cases. I will come back to that later. We have trade organizations and the test kit providers. So also very important in this project is indeed that we are thinking about the next generation of food safety experts in Africa. So for this reason, we have created an Uprise PhD community, which at this moment consists of 12 PhD students that have been recruited to work on Uprise projects. So you can see here the 12 different topics on which they are working. So all of these topics are indeed according to the Uprise work packages. Important here is that these students are not working alone. They are part of the big team of Uprise, of the big community. And for that reason, we also train them in many other skills. For instance, on the picture at the top, you can see a training session that we organized for the PhD community of Uprise in Johannesburg. And this was on communication skills. Further, I was talking about food processing and fermented foods. So also here we have made a selection for each of the African countries. We have one representative fermented food in which we will demonstrate the co-created solutions. So you can see, for instance, that in Côte d'Ivoire, we focus on cocoa baka, in Benin on akpan, Nigeria kunuzaki, South Africa umkumboti, and Kenya maziwa mala. So all of these fermented foods start from crops that can be highly contaminated with mycotoxins, so mainly maize, millet, and sorghum. And of course, also the feed and the milk in the maziwa lala system. So yes, we have been working now for about 1 year on the project, and we already have finalized quite some of our deliverables. So first of all, we have analyzed the complete value chains of those 5 selected crops and fermented foods in the 5 African countries. Tomorrow during the poster sessions, there will be more detailed information on the work that already has been finalized. So now I will just briefly report it, but if you're interested, you can, of course, have more information tomorrow. Another very important deliverable was the selection of the 10 business cases. So what does it mean? So the European Commission also provided us with extra funds for what is called cascade funding. So just like we just heard from Food Safety for Africa, we also had open calls for small and medium enterprises from informal markets to join the Uprise project. And so this was very successful. We had very much interest, of course, in this collaboration on fermented foods and Uprise. And we were able to select 10 business cases. So in each African country, we selected 1. So at the moment, we are now making the contracts with the business cases and so on, but this is almost finalized. What we also already did was to improve a toolkit for risk assessment. This was done in collaboration with another EU-funded project, which is called Food Safety for EU. And finally, we also already finished the map and gap analysis of fungal and mycotoxin occurrence in the 5 African countries. Still, a lot of work is, of course, in progress. First of all, we are at the moment finalizing the SITAN analysis, so the situational analysis of food safety regulatory frameworks in the 5 African countries. This is a huge work together with Adane Patempaka, and as I said, it's almost finalized, and it brings a lot of very important information that I'm sure can be of value, of course, also for the African Food Safety Agency. Besides, one of the biggest tasks in the project is the sampling of crops and the collection of agronomic and weather data in the 5 African countries. This will be over a period of 2 to 3 years. So this crop sampling is ongoing and is important for our development of predictive models. Then we are also studying the fermentation processes of the 5 selected products in detail, and with the business cases, we are at the moment working on a baseline description to understand what types of food safety measures are already taken, or in what's the baseline of these practices in the business cases. You can also see some pictures of our PhD students working on the field. Yes, they have really a lot of tasks to perform, but I'm very happy to see their enthusiasm and motivation in this project. Then finally, as Titilayo already said, we are closely collaborating with each other as the 2 sister projects, and an MOU was signed in April during the World Mycotoxin Forum. Finally, in case you would like to have more information, we also have a newsletter, which you can find on our website and where you can register. And of course, we also are present on social media like LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. So let me conclude with this picture of, as I said, this very, very strong and motivated researchers. It's really a pleasure to work with all of them and to be coordinator of this very interesting project. So thanks a lot for listening, and I'm ready to ask any question.
Thank you, Prof. Sarah. Another fascinating presentation. many great highlights, and because of I'm kind of restraining myself to talk too much because we still need to hear two projects, but fascinating display of creativity. I particularly love your accelerator platform, the selection of business cases, incubation, but great presentation. I think I'm seeing here some element of answer to the challenges being posed by Dr. Amare and the one that Dr. Lutseya spoke to earlier. So I think it's my pleasure now to move quickly to Prof. Michael, Dr. Michael. I introduced you earlier, but I think now you're going to give us an update on the project Healthy Diets for Africa, and you have 15 minutes for that. Over to you, Michael. Are you there, Michael? Dr. Michael? Can you hear me?
He's muted.
I think you're muted. If you're speaking, you're muted then. Are you with us? Okay, can I get some technical help here?
I think now it should be okay.
Okay, now, all right, I can hear you. Is it you speaking, Dr. Mike?
Yes.
All right. You're welcome. The floor is yours. Share with us the highlight of the project you're coordinating, Healthy Diets for Africa.
Well, thank you very much for giving me the floor to introduce this project, which I'm coordinating. And I'd like to start off with some technical data. So we have a funding of a total of 11.5 million euros. The project has 21 partners, and it's a 6-year project coordinated by myself at Justus Liebig University in Gießen. So the problem we are tackling in this project is it's not exclusively about food safety. It's about malnutrition, and certainly food safety is a component of that. What we're looking at is the so-called triple burden of malnutrition, where the first burden is people just not having enough food on their plate, so people basically being hungry. The second burden is called hidden hunger, where people suffer from micronutrient deficiencies, vitamin and minerals, essentially. And the third burden being overnutrition, which also plays an increasing role in Africa, where people actually suffer from non-communicable diseases such as diabetes or overweight due to overfeeding. And we think that a solution to all three of these problems would be diversification of the entire food systems. So what does that mean, the food system? So we look at all parts of the food system, which starts off with food production, which is my own domain as I'm a crop scientist. So here we look at diversifying cropping systems, of developing new crops that are healthy, also diversifying agricultural landscapes and ecosystems, and the societal benefit generated by that would be environmental quality. Secondly, we pass on our best innovations to the supply chain, to the food chain, where we generate new business models which would generate income and economic growth as a societal benefit. And lastly, new diversified and healthy products are supposed to reach the consumers where they would improve their diets to be more healthy as a societal benefit coming out of that. We are a large consortium consisting of 21 partners from all over Africa and Europe. Here you see all those partners on the map, and on the European side, it's essentially European universities and research institutes, whereas on the African side, it's CG centers it's African universities as well as NGOs that help us to really do the work on the ground and reach the people that that are actually intended as the users of the products we develop. So if you have a large consortium like that and an ambitious aim, you need to organize all these partners. Somehow we have organized our project in clusters, which contain work packages, where the first cluster is called monitoring and evaluation. And what they do is they look at the status quo in the 8 African countries we are working at. They characterize dietary patterns and also develop indicators that allow us to measure how diverse people's diets actually are. So this generates baseline information, and this also tells us what is actually the problem. And then it is our job as crop scientists to develop crops and to develop solutions that address exactly the dietary needs that people have. So we do so by analyzing crop samples, but also by developing new crops and cropping systems. This would then lead to new products, which we then pass on to our colleagues from cluster 3, which is called food consumption. So they look at they address questions such as, do people accept those new products? If not, why not? And how much are they willing to pay for these products? And do those products really improve people's health? And here I would like to draw your attention to work package 6, which is called food safety. So this is where we have the interface with this symposium here, where we look at the safety of those new products we develop. And lastly, we have the ambition and the target to really bring our solutions to the people. So we have a cluster called Impact, which does scaling of solutions. It does well PR also, and also policy interaction to make sure that whatever we find out also will shape the nutritional policies in those 8 African countries in the future. Well, so I'm obviously not going to tell you everything that all these 21 partners do in the project in a 10-minute presentation. Rather, I will just cherry pick a few highlights that perhaps relate to the topic of this particular symposium. So this is what you should all be eating. This is called planetary health diet. So this is what you should be eating in order to take care of your own health, but also of the health of the planet, since we need to feed 8 billion people or so, and a lot more in the future. So you see, it's a lot of vegetables and not so much meat, and overall it's a very diverse diet we should be eating. In the project, we have developed an indicator which we call the Planetary Health Diet Index, where different components of people's diet get a score, a plus for a positive, or 0 for neutral, or minus for negative. And then we analyze people's diets based on publicly available data from the Demographic Health Survey, which provides data for most African countries. And we assign basically a planetary health diet score to people's diets. Especially here, we have done that for kids under the age of 5. Here's the example of Cameroon. And what we see there is that the older the kids actually get, the closer they move to what we would consider as a good planetary health diet. So that was just a few highlights from cluster 1. Let me now move to cluster 2, which is called food production. Here, as a very first exercise, we have compiled a list of underutilized crop species. So plants that are edible, but that are either wild plants or that are very rarely used. And from an initial list of 100 species or so, we have condensed that to 23, I believe, of which we think that these are important in providing healthy food, or these are basically healthy. And also we picked the ones that we basically found the least information on in the scientific literature to make sure that whatever we generate in this project is actually new and innovative. We are collecting samples of these plants in our African partner countries, and they ship it to us then, and we analyze them for important nutrients such as iron. You see here iron concentrations, and among the species that we've analyzed so far, the winner is a species called Crassophyllum crepidioides, a leafy vegetable with a spectacularly high iron concentration, so spectacular it's almost difficult to believe, which is why we repeat the analysis at the moment. And for zinc, also a very important micronutrient, we've also analyzed samples, and here the champion was Bacella alba, also a leafy vegetable, but not very widely grown. So we are propagating such species now. We develop cropping systems for them, and also products and recipes for species like that. And certainly there's also an important connection with the topic of this symposium, because if you introduce new plants, new species to people's diets, you have to make sure that these do not contain contaminants. That could be either secondary plant metabolites or also contaminants such as mycotoxins or heavy metals. So these are also unwanted ingredients that we also analyze in the context of the project. Let me move now to cluster 3. And here I'm really only cherry picking the activity that most directly relates to the topic of this symposium, where our colleague Juliana Kiu from Kenyatta University in Kenya, who will also speak in the symposium, and her team have developed training modules on food safety that have been disseminated. And as a further output of the project, we also have published scientific papers, for example, this one here, which talks about mycotoxin contamination in rice. Lastly, I want to introduce a few highlights of the cluster 4. So how do we make sure that the information we generate creates impact? Our most important tool here is our so-called living labs. A living lab is a space in a real world setting where scientists such as us interact with the users as well as public actors and private actors. So importantly, in a living lab, the scene is set by scientists. So it is us that provide the topics, but we interact with users. Users feedback into our research, and important is that we collaborate in physical as well as in virtual space with our users. So essentially the idea in our project is that our cluster 1 provides us with baseline information in the living labs. What is the situation before intervention comes in? We then come in with an intervention, for example, a new crop, a new product, a new food, and distribute that to the people. And then we see whether that has an impact, and we do so by applying the indicators that have been developed by cluster 1. So lastly, I would like to take the opportunity to advertise the project. If you like to follow us, you can do so on the public media. Probably the best place to do so is on LinkedIn, where we are most active. But certainly we also have regular webinars, which you are highly invited to join. They are organized by our PR partner, CERFAM. And also certainly we have a website, which you are welcome to visit. Well then, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, of course, for the funding to the European Union. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you for a great presentation, Dr. Michael. I think we take good note of the resources and the link to learning more about the work you do. Fascinating. I think we'll come back, and I will go back to Dr. Amare after listening to Dr. Fileke, just to answer a basic question. Are the 4 team addressing issues that are important to the African Agency for Food Safety. What can we leverage on the work underway, and how can we synergize across all the EU-funded projects? Now, with that, I would like to move quickly to our last presenter, who is Dr. Fileke, Dr. Shifreu, that I presented earlier, who will tell us a bit more about the FCI for Africa. Then we would have some discussion before moving into the panel discussion. So over to you, Dr. Fileke.
Thank you, Dr. Fadel. Yeah, I'm presenting you the progress of the FCI for Africa. FCI for Africa is the youngest of the 4 EU-funded projects. We launched this project in December of last year. So it has been about 6 months since we started implementing the project. I'm going to just give you an overview of the project, what the project is all about, and also some progress that we have made over the last 6 months. And also we have established some partnership with some organizations, and I'm going to talk about that as well. Yeah, we are, organization coming from different countries. There are 14 organizations from North America, particularly Canada, and European Union, and Africa. So there are 14 partners. I think 6 are coming from Africa, and 5 are coming from Western Europe, and 3 are coming from Canada. Most of these organizations are members of the Food Safety for Africa as well, because of the similarity of the objectives. In terms of the governance structure of the project, we have the General Assembly, 1 individual represents the organizations, each organization. And also we have a board composed of the work package leaders, and also we have the coordinator and the manager. And also we have use cases under work package 5. The work package 5 has 3 use cases. One is on aflatoxin management, and the second one is on digital solutions for trade facilitations. And the third one is on elaborate approaches to increase resilience of rural communities against shocks. And in addition to the work package and use case leaders, we have also independent ethics advisor and also external advisory committee who provide scientific advice about the projects. Yeah, let me go to the rationale behind the projects. Why did we have this project? Well, this project is about trade. We know that fair trade has emerged at the top of the international trade agenda, but African countries have not taken advantage of the opportunities, the fair trade opportunities. There are 3 factors that they could not take advantage of the fair trade opportunities. One is the sustainability requirement, and the second one is justness, and the third one is fairness. So in order for African countries to take advantage of the fair trade opportunities, they have to be able to meet these 3 key requirements. So if Africa has to trade with European countries, so these criteria should be met. This is because of the non-tariff measures. So the non-tariff measures include, for example, sanitary and phytosanitary standards. So they are the source of sustainability, justice, and fairness in the international trade. But also they can be, or actually there have been major obstacles that disproportionately affect African agri products from competing in the global market. So what is the FCI Africa project all about? So it was designed to address the non-tariff measures. So the non-tariff measures are mostly the sanitary and phytosanitary standards. That's the rules, laws, and standards that are enacted to protect, human life, animal life, and plant life, or the health of these organisms. So in order for Africa to benefit from the fair trade opportunities that have been or emerging, then we need to help addressing the non-tariff measures. So what is the goal of the FCI for Africa? One is to improve Africa's trade openness. So when we are working on improving the Africa's trade openness, we have to consider these three criteria, or the fairness, the justice, and the equity requirements. So we have to consider respect for human rights. We have to consider the inequalities in the distribution of benefits along the value chain, mostly the producers. So with consideration of the fairness, the justice, and the equity requirements, then the project aims to improve Africa's trade openness. So what do we do in order to improve Africa's trade openness? What we can do is to make sure that the African products meet the criteria. For example, deforestation-free, or organic, or fair, or just processes. So if the project can help addressing these issues, then there is a possibility that the project can help improve Africa's trade openness, because the Africa's trade could not products could not compete in the European market, which is the biggest market for African products. So we should focus on addressing the three components, which is the fairness, justice, and equity requirements. So what is the approach to address these issues? One is, basically we are using the food convergence innovation. This is a broad approach, but it involves one, leveraging digital tools and data analytics. And the second one is we have to promote the use of sustainable practices. And third one is fostering collaboration among different disciplines, sectors, and partners. And we need to prioritize nutrition health. So this is the approach that we are adopting in the Food FC for Africa in order to achieve the goal of improving Africa's trade openness. In this project, we expect to generate three outcomes. The first one is improved assessment system for sustainable food trade regimes. The second one is data and recommendation for improved NTM, or non-tariff measures. The third one is digital solution for trade border regime management. So we are hoping that the three outcomes that come out of this project will translate into the expected impact of the project. The expected impact of the project is one, sustainable farming system, and the second one is accelerated transition into sustainable and healthy and inclusive food systems. In order to achieve these objectives or the goals, so we are implementing the project through 8 work packages. And under these 8 work packages, there are 35 tasks, 24 milestones, and 44 deliverables. So the first one is focusing on the food systems. So we are working to contribute to climate neutrality of the food systems in Africa. The second one is advancing the fair trade and health for a sustainable society through NTM harmonization and innovations. And this is the essence of the project, because it's about the trade. So it's focusing on the non-tariff measures and addressing the issues of trade. African countries cannot compete in the European market or other European market, even within Africa itself. And the third one is on the leveraging technologies and innovations, that is focusing on digitization, traceability, certification, and enforcement. And the fourth one is we focus on the knowledge platform And the fifth one is application of the knowledge generated in the other work packages. So as I said earlier, there are 3 use cases where we apply the knowledge generated in the projects. And the 6th one is the ecosystem building and cascade funding. That's about the exploitation, communication, and dissemination of the knowledge generated in the project. And the 7th is the project management, coordination, and intellectual property rights. And this one is ethics requirements. We are implementing this project in 8 countries, but most of the activities are in Burkina Faso, and Ghana, Kenya, and Nigeria, as well as in Senegal. And also there are some specific activities in the other countries I have mentioned here. So what does success for the FCI for Africa look like? I mentioned that there are 3 important outcomes that are expected of this project. One is the assessment or system for evaluating sustainable food trade practices. So we are planning to apply an advanced model where we can assess the impacts of the non-tariff measures on the welfare or on the performance of the trade in Africa, or across between Africa and European Union. So one is applying the advanced models to assess the impact of NTM. The second one is generating a comprehensive database on non-tariff measures. So this would be done through knowledge platform and solution engines. So we are developing the knowledge platform. Some work has already been done, but as I said, this is just 6 months, so it will be done in the next year. And the third one is developing digital solutions, and this involves digital traceability and analytical methods for the authenticity of the products. So over the last 6 months, so we have implemented some work, mostly literature review, and also there are some works done on the ground. So I'm going to give you, some highlights about the activities that have been done in the project areas over the last 6 months. One is, so I'm presenting it work package by work package on the under climate neutral, fair, and just food system, which is work package 1. We have conducted a literature review on selected value chains. I think 4 work packages, and also we have done literature review on tipping pointers and leverage pointers. And the second one is based on the information generated in the literature review. There are some work done on value chain mapping in Ghana. This was done through interviews, farm and processing plant, and research visits. And the third one is developing decision support system architecture. So this is just a process, is a work in progress. And also this was led by McGill, and they're developing this algorithm for the sustainability assessment tool to streamline sustainability calculations. So this is based on the food systems. On the trade work package, we have also conducted a literature review, and mostly this literature review focuses on examining the non-tariff measures. What are those measures that are affecting the trade between African Union or African countries and the European Union? And also identifying or assessing the impacts of domestic food systems on nutrition, health, and the environment. And also, we have determined the dual effects of non-tariff measures. So there are 2 effects of non-tariff measures. One is it can impede trade by raising compliance costs and also creating administrative delays and limiting smaller participation. However, they are also trade enhancing, because if we can make sure that they can be compliant to the requirements. So there is a possibility of these products having access to premium markets, which means that, so it has a dual effect. On the positive side, it can be trade enhancing, and on the negative side, it can increase the cost of trading.
Sorry, Dr. Feleke, sorry to interrupt. I will give you 2 minutes to conclude because we're really running out of time. You don't need to go into the details. I think we can make this slide available later. If you don't mind, try to go through it in the next 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. On the work package 3, we have developed a procedure to identify products. And also, we have identified the food products that should be focused on. So we have identified cocoa, palm oil, groundnuts, maize, and honey. And the knowledge platforms, so we have identified a protocol, developed a protocol, and in the next year, there will be a knowledge platform available. Also, we have developed a number of a number of activities under work package 5, and I'll move to the next one. Under work package 6, we have the website already developed, and finally we have the partnership signed between food safety and food FSCI for Africa, and also we have a partnership signed between INSITES and FSCI for Africa. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you very much, Dr. Feleke. I think that completes the set of 4 presentations. I think we have a very concrete illustration of the work being done across the different projects. And yes, maybe before just moving to the panel discussion, I would like just to check with Dr. Amare. Please mute your side if you are not speaking. Please, colleagues, please mute. Yes, thank you. Dr. Amare, if you're still around, maybe just a very quick comment. I mean, just to the basic question. In looking at these different projects, do you feel like some of the concern, the ambition, and the pain point of setting up of a new organization for the continent are being addressed? Is there some opportunities to leverage on this project being implemented across Africa? Very quickly. Please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dr. Fadel, for the opportunity to reflect on this. First of all, my quick answer is absolutely. You know, there are a lot of ingredients from these 4 projects that can support a successful Africa Food Safety Agency and beyond. So, in fact, I would like to start by commending all the project consortia, as well as the European Commission, for coming up, as you said, with such concrete, real life research and application, projects. So these are actually, for me, these are beyond projects in the traditional sense. So let me reflect on a few things, maybe to answer your question. First of all, as I have already said, all of them have to do with the impactful approach. So all of them, I can pinpoint examples, but all of them would like to do research for impact. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is from all of them, actually, we can generate huge amount of data and knowledge, which the Africa Food Safety data, for example, can capitalize on, which the continent can utilize also. So I think the data and knowledge part is very important. The other thing that I captured is they involve also capacity building. A lot of capacity building component is there. And they have already started, the work that AU is planning on rallying the continent, around food safety, around such issues, even beyond food safety. And I think another important thing to mention is they address all of the priority issues. there can be fancy projects, but these projects are addressing real life priority issues. For example, Food Safety for Africa and Uprise, they focus a lot on the informal market, the informal sector, the traditional sector, which is lacking capacity infrastructure, as Sarah was saying, and which is outside the regulatory scheme of countries. So, which is not also easy to address, to deal with. So, really, the projects have taken a bold step to try and address that. I think, lastly, I would like to commend them also for the strong communication element that they have. Especially Food Safety for Africa and Uprise also. Uprise also is very strong in this. They bring PR partners and communication is very important, which is well addressed in this. And I think the fair food and also the healthy diets for Africa projects, they are also very important in terms of the systems approach they are bringing, because they go even beyond food safety towards contributing to the food systems transformation agenda of the continent. So a huge applause to all of them. Kudos to the project leaders and project teams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Amare. I think congratulations to all of the teams. I mean, at least we are responding to questions being asked, not only by the African Union, but also by the whole the all set of stakeholders and value chain actors. Maybe just to move a bit into the discussion, we can now call upon the panelists that will comment and react to this presentation. And from there, I hope to have some space to give back to the four projects to contribute. So the panel discussion, as we have, I will ask you to open your mic as I call your name. Exactly, Dr. Hans Jörg. I think it's good we started with you. It'd be very interesting to hear your reaction. We also have, I will all of you to quickly introduce you. Monica Ermoli. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you.
And we have Rose Omari. Welcome, Rose. Kokep Tesma Fariam. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Dr. Juliana Kio. So all of you, I mean, am I missing anybody? I think these are the four panelists I have for now. We also have, Juliana is here. Adama Nea, sorry, Adama, I knew I was meeting somebody. Adama, are you here? Excellent, Dr. Adama. And Adelaide, Prof, welcome.
Thank you, Adewale. Thank you.
Adewale, good to see you again. So, I mean, we all listen, we're all happy to have you at this, this juncture where you can react and have some of your reflection on what you heard so far. And I would like just to keep it predictable, to the order I was given initially. I would like to start with you, Dr. Yes. Monica, I will not go through I will invite colleagues to go to your CV because I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah. So thank you very much for the introduction. Yeah. I'm
sorry, Monica, you have been 4 questions. I wanted to pick one.
Yeah, okay.
Because we don't have time. Just pick one, and otherwise I will offer you one.
No, but I mean, if you want to choose and select the ones for you, it's much more important.
No, it's for you. Just having listened to the team, what are your reflections?
What I would like to say is that for the Joint Research Center, what it's very important is to have all these results. If we are talking about improvement in the situation regarding the regulation, or if you have any kind of implementation and results at the ground level, we are absolutely in favor to give a visibility and to share with all our colleagues and the DGs in Brussels the results, because what we really need to have is input from you in order to keep the attention of the Europe in Africa and in food safety, and especially in my case, I'm looking for issues related to mycotoxin in particular, but not only food safety in general, of course.
Okay.
So what we really need to have is your input. So please send us your results, keep us in the loop, because we, of course, have the capacity also to analyze, to put in our report, to emphasize the things that for us are important, and share all this information with our colleagues. And Hans-Jörg can confirm that our action is quite important to maintain this attention very high at the right level. So when we have to prepare the new project, we have to prepare new inputs, we can, of course, takes the opportunity to introduce some keywords, some special facts that for us are important and can really help us in keeping the attention higher. This is, to me, the most important thing. And the second thing is taking consideration that we can host, for example, young scientists, trainees, and so on. So we can also share our environment, not only our website, but we can also collaborate sometimes really in practice. So those are the two main messages that I would like to share with you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I hear you loud and clear, Monica. I think we will communicate, keep you in the loop, provide resources, but also take advantage of your opportunity and your resources.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Now, Dr. Hans, you are, by the end of this session, I'll be able to say your first name without problem. Hans, so what's your reaction? I mean, you also have 4 questions, but I'll let you the choice of addressing either of them based on what you heard and your initial submission at the start of this symposium. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Fadel, and also congratulations to all the presenters. So you have presented great work, all quite good in communicating with a specific work package. But to highlight a few things, as you know, we are funding, let's say, projects, and your partnerships, I think they go well beyond projects. And I think this is a great development. Our project funding is normally linked to 3 and 4 years, so we have an opportunity to boost. And just now, in view of the African Food Safety Authority, it's a very nice coincidence of time that you are able actually to mobilize science towards establishing the pillars of the African Food Safety Authority. So a great opportunity. But again, another element actually of bringing your activities beyond the short-term project is actually the International Research Consortium on Food and Nutrition Security and Sustainable Agriculture, which we are, let's say, establishing, or FARA has already announced it. It was established in September 2023, and now 65 organizations have signed up to it. So it is a possibility, actually, to keep partnerships, to keep linkages beyond a certain project alive. And if new opportunities arise, there could be another next project actually answering the questions which at a future time are in the focus. So maybe it could be an opportunity to have a working group on food safety in Africa as part of the International Research Consortium. So it's something actually to discuss with FARA, but I think an opportunity. And as Monica outlined, the Knowledge Center for Global Food Security is a knowledge center which is highly regarded in the European Commission. So bringing your projects also close to this platform enables cross-cutting, actually, fertilization and reactions. And a third point, I think all the projects have this great opportunity of innovation. So launching calls for innovative ideas to bring them, to scale them up, innovative startups maybe. And actually on the 23rd of October, we are hosting an Innovation Day, EU Africa in Brussels. And it's an opportunity actually to bring, let's say, innovative ideas, business cases to the attention of the EU-AU partnership, maybe additional investors for scale up. Thank you, Fadel. And
thank you so much, Hans-Jörg. I think great point. I think I take good note of the fact that through the partnership, we can extend beyond the project. There is really a space for innovation. We can leverage some of the events that are upcoming, and colleagues are really encouraged to continue working and collaborating beyond project, across project. So thank you so much. Now I'll move to Rose Omari, who is a member of at least 2 of these projects. So Rose, what did you hear? What resonate with what you're seeing in Ghana on the ground and also across the different projects you are participating in?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the first thing I would say is to agree with Hans that there's a need for us to have a food safety working group as part of the International Research Consortium. We had a meeting with them, with the coordinator, to discuss possible ways of collaboration. And I think it would be good for you to pursue this for us so that we have a whole working group on food safety. Thank you. Yeah, so for me, I've heard a lot. And, the informal sector that we are focusing on has been neglected, has been receiving very little attention from regulators, even from researchers, from investors, and all that. So we are trying as much as possible to ensure that the informal sector is prioritized. And we are doing this from the regulatory policy perspective. We have done an assessment and identified the gaps that we have in the policy and regulatory environment. And we are trying to see how best we can co-develop recommendations and best practices for managing food safety in the informal sector. And this is what we seek to do in the next years. We hope to do this together with policymakers, with regulators, with donors, so that we can come up with concrete ways of addressing food safety in the informal sector. And we are also adopting an approach of involving early career and then researchers, because we believe that they are the agents of change. And if we are able to build their capacity, then in the future, we have the human resource that will be able to address our challenges. And they are supporting us in various ways. They are collecting data, they are carrying out experiments, and a whole lot. They are writing articles. They are building their capacity. We are training them as well in carrying tests, conducting a lab test and all that. So we believe that this Food Safety for Africa will really enhance our capacities in terms of skills and knowledge to be able to address food safety in the informal sector.
Thank you, Rose. I think hold your thought. I'll come back to you. I think these are all very interesting line of thought. I'll move to you, Kokep, just to get from your perspective, what did you hear? What come to your mind as key point you want to highlight in the discussion at this stage?
Thank you, Dr. Fadel, for the nice introduction. And I'm really glad to be here today with you and to talk about a big but often overlooked problem in Africa food system, which is mycotoxin. But I would like to focus more on the most interventions that we are doing in Uprise. So in Uprise, we are leveraging innovative tools and technologies to tackle the serious challenges of mycotoxin contamination in the African food chains, with a strong focus on early warning system and microbiome-based solutions tools. So this is what I would like to share also today. So to talk a little bit about the early warning system. is, that climate change, like the temperature, the humidity, and irregular rainfall, creates the perfect condition for the harmful fungi and the mycotoxins to grow in crops such as maize, sorghum, and millet. So to deal with, Uprise is building a predictive model in selected crops like the maize, sorghum, and millet, and also milk in our 5 target AU member states at pre-harvest and post-harvest, using different data from fungi, mycotoxin, climate, and farming practices, and other data, just to estimate the risk of mycotoxin contamination. So I think it's important to know these models will be developed using advanced methods like the machine learning and mechanistic models. So this will be developed by our partners who are in University from the Netherlands in collaboration with other AU member of the project. So what is exciting is that these models will look into the future climate scenario. So we can predict how things might change, how things might get worse, and then to take action early. So for example, we will test how certain fungi behave in extreme conditions to better understand what might happen in the future, and then how it could affect products like milk if animals get contaminated also. So these kinds of models will be integrated in the existing African post-harvest loss information system, and then it will be made available to farmers or any other interested partners through a kind of mobile app, which we will start it in Nigeria. This app will be developed by our partner in Nigeria, which is called Footmin, and they will give kind of early warnings about mycotoxin risks and also suggest kind of best practices for farming and storage, so that farmers can take actions before the problem gets worse.
Okay.
And also, I would like to share what we are doing in terms of the other innovation, which is the microbiome-based solution. This has been already mentioned briefly by our project coordinator, Professor Sarah, but I think it's worth to give a little bit of attention to this, as it's important. So we work with these traditional foods in Africa. So many of these are made using the fermented, like in porridge, fermented milk, or leverage local beverages. So the fermentation is just a way to preserve food, but also it's a key role. It plays a key role in keeping food safe. So, but here is the challenge. So most of the fermentations happen spontaneously using microbes, but we don't fully understand and control what's happening. So which means we are not always sure what these microbes are involved with, whether they are helping or harming when it comes to food safety. So especially when it comes to mycotoxin, there is still not enough research to prove how much fermentation can really help produce these toxins. So this is where the project Uprise comes in, and we're trying to better understand how fermentation affects mycotoxin, and to develop microbiome-based solutions, which means to reduce food wastes and then to improve the food safety in Africa in general.
Okay, so I think I will ask you to also hold your thought. We'll come back. I think great illustration of what Prof. Sarah already kind of outlined at a very high level. So let me move to Juliana from Kenya. I think you can also come up with some specific issue. But one of the I will ask you a specific question in your case, Julia, if you don't mind. Help us understand the link between healthy nutrition diet and food safety and quality, because those are the different dimension of diets that we optimally need to integrate and score against all of these parameters. Amor, what are the relationships you are looking into?
Thank you, Fadel, for that introduction. I'm glad to be part of this great discussion indeed. And I will start by first emphasizing the the link between food safety and nutrition as being key elements actually for healthy food systems. And as such, we appreciate and we know that foods must be both safe and nutritious for better health outcomes. We never say we are food secure, not unless the foods are safe. And there is a really direct link between food safety and health outcome, but also there's also a close link with nutrition. And here we actually talk about malnutrition infection cycles, which are usually vicious cycles. One of the ways in which foodborne illnesses can affect the nutrition status of a person is through affecting the nutrient intakes, absorption, but also metabolism of those nutrients. How maybe by the habit of the person because of the food infection, there is also increased need for nutrients when the person is sick, suffering from this infection. There are also nutrient losses which occur due to this infection, like diarrhea, for example, can induce zinc losses, which is a key micronutrient. Then we also have a lot of malabsorption of nutrients. So overall, all these will take person time in terms of malnutrition. And the other case scenario there, we have even worse case scenarios where we have children dying and even other people, vulnerable people dying. On the other hand, malnutrition can make individuals more susceptible to foodborne illnesses. For example, people with compromised immune systems. And those mostly are the young, old, pregnant, immunocompromised groups. Those are quite vulnerable, especially for food safety. When we are talking of mycotoxin, bacterial, microbial infections, and so on, they are at a higher risk because even the immunity is compromised. Then we have other links, such as a person who is, for example, has micronutrient deficiencies like iron deficiency, is at an increased risk of absorbing some of these compounds like zinc from food. So there is really a quite direct link between malnutrition and infection.
Thank you, Juliana, for educating me on this important topic, because one of the challenges we're trying to address is higher level goals that bring together health, nutrition, environment, and economics. Until we understand the interconnection, it's very difficult to have a solution that can work across the board. So I think that starting with science is a very good starting point. But then how do you make sure that the stakeholders, your consumers, for instance, are brought into the conversation to select the healthier diet, to speak in a simpler term? What do you do to make sure that the food I eat that I like is healthy also and nutritious?
Thank you, Fadel. Definitely, consumers have to be included in the loop, because for them to be able to consume healthy diets and even safe diets, there's need to create awareness to the consumers. That is so key. And that can only be achieved by targeting them in their respective environments. For example, the rural setups, in the urban setup, those are different scenarios. We find different scenarios altogether. The knowledge they have pertaining nutrition, but also food safety. Some of it, especially food safety, is lacking in terms of the health risk associated with some of the food hazards, the implications for their health. Also not aware of mitigative measures. So we need to do a lot of awareness creation. And some of the platforms to reach out to them may vary depending on the environment you're talking about. So it's good to bring them on board into the discussion and into key interventions to help mitigate these food hazards in our food systems.
Yeah, and these are the co-creation platform that Prof was talking about earlier, where you engage with the end users, you make sure that they are part of your experiment. Is that what am I hearing correctly?
Sure.
Okay. So let's move now to Dr. Adama, maybe starting with you also. Glad to have you with us. Maybe you can help us understand why is it important to address food safety issues within the informal sector in Africa. Dr. Adama, can you hear me?
Okay, thank you very much.
Please mute your mic if you are not speaking. We are hearing other people's conversation.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but somebody else speaking. Maybe they can be muted. Okay, please go ahead.
I am in a corner in the meeting room, but I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, Adama.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fadel. Nice to meet you virtually, and I have a chance to be bring on board because of IITA, and thanks to Feleke, to Bango, to Titlayo, and also my brother Amare, I met some time ago. I think from my understanding, the informal sector is very, very important. When you see, as Rose has stated, it covers about more than 70% of food which is consumed or marketed in our countries, including cities and also rural area. You can also take into consideration the fact that there is a public health risk and there is a less, this sector is neglected. So we know that there are very less investment on this. And when you take, like, I can take an example in Burkina Faso. There is a company called Faso that import about 800 metric tons of groundnuts from Argentina to produce what they call ready-to-use therapeutic food for acute and severe malnutrition in Burkina. But unfortunately, we cannot get the quality groundnut in Burkina. Currently, we have a need of 1,000 metric tons of groundnuts. So we are trying to help them in a way that we bring capacity enhancement on cooperatives. You train them how to produce safe groundnut by combining the safe use of the proper use of aflacet combined with best practice in terms of harvest, in terms of post-harvest. Now this company is able to increase, the quantity of groundnuts purchased locally. But the second problem is you have to consider also when there are rejection in the country. This rejection go straight in the informal sector. And this is a big gap you have to fill because we know also that farmers, they put a lot of effort to meet the international standard because it is premium market, but they do very less effort when they have to grow their food for themselves. So these are things we have to consider. I'm glad to know that the AU has now implemented a big program for the next 20 years. And I think I would like to thank everybody. So now I turn to the young scientists, and we are not old, but I want to say that the young scientists who are coming now, they are very lucky because now on the ground, there are a lot of opportunities. We heard about these different projects and the linkages. There are a lot of opportunities. And I really invite them to go inside the different websites. There are opportunities for collaboration, for networking. So now they will be able to understand well the opportunities and the challenges. So the ground is not, now there is a lot of things, a lot of opportunities.
Thank you
very much, Fadel.
Yeah, thank you, Adama, for this positive note. I like your point around the focus of early career professional and young scientists.
Okay.
Maybe you can speak a bit more. What opportunity do we see for them in existing project? What did you hear in the presentation that excites you about support to the young career?
Okay, what excites me is the opportunity of networking. Networking, collaboration is a key point, and also it will allow them to also bring the effort in data collection. some of person mentioned, but data collection, evidence data is very, very important. I think Amare has talked about the lack of evidence data in Africa, where we are collecting, sometimes it is not the right way. So these young career can take this opportunity to go on board and bring their knowledge and also learn from different networking and different projects which are now like Food Convention Initiative for Africa is just starting 6 months ago, but other project has already put on the ground some opportunities for call for project. So they are very lucky. There is a lot of opportunities for them to have something to work in terms of resource. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Adama. I mean, hopefully come back to you. Now I want to move to Prof. Adewale, who is a food safety and agri-food system consultant with more than 20 years of experience. So Prof, we're happy to have you here. Maybe I will ask you to just speak to what stood out for you in listening to the different cases, and related to the first question, the pressing concern around food safety in Africa today. What did we hear that give you confidence that we are moving in the right direction?
Yeah, thank you, the moderator. The session has been very interesting. The pressing food safety challenges within the continent, a lot of them have been covered in the presentations. They've talked about the microbial contamination, which is normally due to inadequate hygiene in food production, processing, and distribution, which normally occurs as a result of contamination of pathogens. The presentation have also shed more light on present issues like mycotoxins and chemical hazard, which normally get into the food as a result of poor post-harvest handling and storage conditions. They've also flawed more about informal food markets, which is where a large proportion of food in Africa is traded through informal markets. They also mention the issue of limited awareness and capacity. There is often a lack of awareness about food safety at the producer, consumer, and policymaker levels. And this coupled with inadequate training of food handlers and inspectors. But where they've not really mentioned, or where an area or a present issue that was not really mentioned, is weak regulatory and surveillance system, which the keynote speaker mentioned. Many African countries lack harmonized and well-enforced food safety policies, laboratory infrastructure, and effective foodborne disease surveillance system. So these are the major present issues that we have in the continent. But the association that I represent, which I'm a member of the board of directors, African Continental Association of Food Protection, is an affiliate of International Association of Food Protection. So what can this association do in helping to mitigate these challenges that have been mentioned by all the speakers? Number one, this association can create platform where we can have capacity building and training of food producers, processors, inspectors, and regulators on food hygiene, risk assessment, and international food safety standards. As well, this association can also create platform for networking and knowledge exchange with the membership strength of this association, which is more than 400 cut across different regions within the continent of Africa. This association can serve as a platform for stakeholders, including academia, government, industry, and civil society, to share research, innovations, and best practices in food safety. Let me also say that the challenge of public awareness, the Association, the African Continental Association of Food Protection, can lead public education campaigns on food safety handling, nutrition. They can also do this through conference, which we are organizing come November this year, which is African Food Safety Conference. All these can be jointly executed with the newly developed African Food Safety Agency. So thank you.
Prof, I'll ask you to hold your thought. I know you can continue. I can see it's interesting that you highlighted challenges, but also you are offering avenue for solving them. So I would like to come back to the group because we still have like 20 minutes left before opening up to the floor. All of you kind of acknowledge the significance of an informal sector. Now, interestingly, we're naming it by what it is not, informal. What is it? Being scientists, how do you deal with something that operates under the radar of policy, that may cover different reality, different industry, what's the approach to make sure that we bring them on board in a very systematic way? What insight, what example would you have, including from Europe? Because I want to start with you, Monica. What the experience can we borrow from how successful the EU have been able to almost universally apply its food safety policies and surveillance and implementation? What can we learn from that? Maybe you want to start with you to get us started.
Well, can you please repeat the question in a precise way? So
the question is, a lot of African system is informal, which means we're dealing with actors that really operate under the radar of policy, or they are not known by the taxpayer, or the policy doesn't apply to them. So if this is the public we need to engage with in order to promote a culture of food safety, how do we go about it? Now, what the lessons can we or insight you got from experience from elsewhere?
The first things that I have to say is that, first of all, the people must understand. That's the most important thing. They have immediately to understand what we would like to achieve, and then they have to have immediately the feeling, because sometimes it's not concrete, but at least the feeling on what they can gain. Because of course, if you ask something, you have immediately to offer something. So this is, I guess, the most important thing that we have seen everywhere. You have to be very clear, very smart in giving immediately a benefit in terms of what you want. It means what they need. Of course, it's the best things to offer. But if you cannot give exactly what they want, at least they have to have immediately a benefit. So to me, it's the most important things to understand. When you have to offer something, we say in Italy, we say the two parties must gain in the business something.
Absolutely.
It's not just for one.
Has to be a win-win.
You can, okay. That's the main things, I guess.
Absolutely. No, that's very clear, Monica. Thank you for helping us with that. Hans-Jörg, I mean, you have an interesting concept of a food safety culture. How do you make it universal? How do you bring on board all the actors, formal, informal, small, big? What insight would you share with us on that topic?
Yeah, actually, when we decided to put the informal sector in the text of the topic, to which the projects actually consortia responded, in a way it was also let's say a lesson learned from Europe, because we have not only had positive positive experiences with regulating the small food businesses. So there was European regulation, and then there was regional regulation. And sometimes the regional regulation turned out to be too much on the policing side. And this actually killed small food processors. So some small food processors disappeared from the scenery. And I mean, what we need is actually Like Monica put it also, we need awareness, we need win-win situations. And for me, the win-win situation could be that there are trade opportunities emerging. So if also smaller food processors are behind regional quality food, I mean, Italy, for example, is full of regional quality food, and the people are proud of it. But it needs to meet food safety standards to be exported to other regions. And I think this could be a win-win situation also for small food processors to adopt the food safety culture, opening such trade opportunities.
Thank you so much. I really like that that perspective. It's really a win-win, and then I think having an opportunity to make money. I mean, this is where all the tools, the technologies that enable them to leverage those opportunities and become part of the system we're building together. Maybe Rose Omari, I can go to you just to share with you from a policy point of view, how do you deal with that reality of, you know, addressing the informal sector and make sure that they are part of the conversation and their concerns are taken into account? How do you deal with that now?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so I would say that even from the Food Safety for Africa project, we are working closely with the informal sector. They form a major part of our work. And we are using various approaches. We are using the innovation platform approach, which is a platform or an initiative that brings together all the various stakeholders along the value chains that we are talking about, where there are lesson learning, we co-create, you know, we identify the solutions together, co-create we identify the problem and co-create the solutions for them to implement. So once they are part of the creation of the solutions, they understand the issues and will be willing to adopt whatever solutions we come up with. It doesn't have to be a top-down approach anymore. They have to be part of the process. And even with the policymakers as researchers or as implementers of this project, we cannot do without the policymakers. They have to be part so that whatever gaps we have identified, they understand the gaps, and together we come up with better ways of improving our policies and also their implementation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, continue the sentence. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So one of the things we seek to do is that we have identified a whole lot of issues, and we have also come to realize that the informal sector will not need the same regulatory approach that are used for the formal sector. We need to have some distinct ways of addressing the informal sector. And that is what we seek to do in the next few months of this project, to identify the best practices. Some countries are already doing very well for the informal sector. So we are trying to identify all these best practices, collect them, and then we have a discussion, you know, at a forum where we will all see how best we can adapt these best practices for implementation in various countries.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rose. And I will come back to the rest. I'm asking my co-pilot, Titilayo and Tracy, to check the chat box if participant may have question to the panel, so that we can, I cannot see mine, so that we give them a chance to intervene before the Q&A session. Kokep, I want to come back to you. Just any reflection on the same issue? I mean, given, you know, the work that your project is doing, how are you addressing this informality element and make sure that you are co-creating with them?
Yes, thank you. I think it has been a lot has been said with regard to the informal sector, but in particularly in our project, we're trying to do a lot of things to address these challenges. So I think the first thing is the education and awareness campaign to target like the farmers, the traders, or consumers with a kind of simple message about the danger of mycotoxin or any unsafe, unsafe food using different local media, or it could be, the community leaders, it could be through the agriculture extension officers. So just to convey the message. Also in one of our work packages, we also deal with this incentivize the compliance. So to kind of provide economic incentives for low toxin products, and also kind of providing certification or level for informal sellers who meet basic safety criteria. And also I think it's important also to deal with the community level interventions where, this kind of it's low cost mitigation technology, so that we can deal and help them, the informal sector, bring to the formal sector approach. And also it's important, talking in terms of the policy, it's important to integrate them into the national policies, where these policies must acknowledge that the informal sector role, and not just focus on exporters or formal supply chains, but also just to develop a kind of regulations, basic requirements for informal marketers, stricter ones for formal or exporter marketers. So these are the main things that we mainly focus in our projects as well when dealing with informal sectors.
No, thank you very much. And I remember what Dr. Adama said earlier, that some of the producers will abide to the quality standard for the export market, but will not do it for what they eat themselves. So what else? And I take good note of what you say, awareness, incentive, whatever it takes for also people to consider that there are safety concerns for what they eat themselves. So let me move to Juliana. Any comment you want to have on this or any other topic related to this informal sector?
Thank you, Fadel. Just to acknowledge what other speakers have said, but also to add a little bit. And I like that in Africa and many of the African countries, the informal markets and sector plays a big role in terms of our food systems, in terms of our production markets. And one of the things we recognize especially is what others have said, regulation of that market is of the sector is not easy. And it becomes even a challenge for food safety. I will just try to link it directly with food safety now. A lot of the products you find in the streets, in the markets, you may find they are not regulated. Why? Because they're just produced in maybe somebody's house and brought to the market. No label, no traceability mark. How do you address that? And yet probably it is a food safety issue in the food product. So there's a lot of challenge with that, and I'm sure policies, as has been said, can be developed to cover the informal sector, being a very important sector. Awareness creation is also very important. When you have discussion with them, we do surveys in the informal markets, for example, you find they are quite not aware of what you are talking about. So it's like a surprise to them that they're supposed to maybe cook food this way, handle food like this, to make it safe. And also, I think, emphasizing to them that the effects of that unsafe food to the general population, to them and to others, so that even when they bring it to the market, then they recognize that it is a health hazard. I think that is very key for those markets. And with that information, I am sure we can get somewhere. And of course, as we said, then awareness creation platforms are important. Some for all value chain players. Information, simple information creation, awareness creation materials can communicate. I like previous presenters who have even talked of translating that into local languages so that it can be well received, understood, and maybe adapted for their application. So I think that is very critical for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Juliana. I'm checking whether we have any question, because we have reached the time where we should open it to the to the participant who may have questions for any of you or the panelists. So Titilayo and the technical team, please check the chat box. If there is any question, we can relate it to the panelists. But for now, Dr. Adam, I want to come back to you because you raised initially that question. You heard what Dr. I always struggle with my friends here, Hans-Jörg mentioned. You don't want to, through policing, kill the informal sector, because there is a reason why people are hiding behind, are operating under the radar of policy. So what would be your thought to combine, to do both what they call push and pull? The pull is creating a market incentive, a take for them to abide to the rule. And the push would be capacity building, everything we said earlier. So it could be a strategic approach to make sure that we are bringing the informal sector on board while promoting the healthy standards. So Dr. Adam, I would like to react to that, and then we will go through the question that we have here. Dr. Adam?
Thank you very much, Fadel. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, as Rose said right now is, the way, the strategy, the way we approach the formal sector is not the same we have to apply when you go to the informal sector. Right yesterday, I met a person who said that for some of the cereal, like fonio, fonio is a cereal. He said that the informal sector of fonio bring 10 times the one from the formal sector.
Yeah.
So he said one way to cover the informal sector is to go to the local market, to talk to them, like a buyer, and also try to see the amount and how, and also, you have to go in a smart way, because these guys, they always think that when you want to formalize something, they are fear, because they think that we want to increase the tax they have to pay.
Yes.
So we also know that this informal sector brings about 70% of the food for both rural and urban states. So we have to be very smart in the case of Burkina. Like I would like to learn from my sister from Ghana. We're already gone on this. But what I can emphasize is we have to make sure that the approach for the informal sector will bring us to get the information we are looking for. Because Absolutely. At the end of the day, we want to transform this informal sector so that they bring safer food for the consumers.
Okay.
But we have to consider also they always fear, because they were afraid that we want to increase the taxes, we want to put them on the list, etc. and etc. I agree with Rose when it says we need to bring another way of regulation.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Dr.
This is okay.
No, I heard you. I think we are agreeing violently, as they say. I think we are all getting the same direction. I just want to to some of the comment we got in the chat box. Thank you, our friend Ranajit. Excellent presentation, but advising us really to bring the National Research Institution into our setup. I think that's something we can all think about as part of our different projects. That from Aremu, Mariam. I think there is also a question around they want more information on your food safety hub. I think Titilayo and everybody, all the projects that have a innovation hub, food safety hub, etc., there is an appetite for more information. What we can do is post the links to your respective project that provide those information. And I think that will be, colleague would be able to access them. So now we are 10 minutes away from, I would like to give a last round of a chance to Prof. Firstly, to Prof. Prof, I'll give you 2 minutes. I know you can take the 15. that are remaining. I'll give you 2 minutes. Given the fact that you have an organization that is benchmarked, you are part of a global organization, you heard this discussion on the African reality that our food system is run by the informal sector. It doesn't mean that it's unsafe, but we don't know, if I can put it in a neutral way. And part of what science is doing is building the tool, the methodologies to know what is not safe and, you know, bring more traceable and science-based assessment technologies. What can your organization do in this direction? What are you already doing? What are the avenues for collaboration? And I would like you to to do that in 2 minutes so that we can move to the concluding remarks.
Thank you. Our association, as I said, is there to create platforms to eliminate or to reduce these challenges that are facing within the continent. One is that we are open to roll out trainings of trainers that will help to assist in enlightening these key actors at the informal market. Now, training of the trainers like the university, academia, the different NGOs, associations, we can do that for them. And another thing that is also very key that we need to also note is that there's always a premium attached to food safety. So these key actors are the informal markets. They needed something like incentives to be able to achieve this. So the local government, the government have a role to play here as well. We can also collaborate with the local government authority to assist in upgrading some of the facilities that are needed at the informal market that will allow or assist the key stakeholders to be able to adopt all these things that we have been asking them to do. And
all right, I think you can hold your thought there. The next we'll do it later. But I think you are always putting us on the path. Thank you. I think you're really an ecosystem play, to use Dr. Hans' Jörg expression of an inclusive culture of safety, which require that you build trust, trade, and the actors. I mean, if I build from his initial comment when we started this meeting, we have 7 minutes left in this call. If there is any comment or question in the chat box, please open your mic and ask it. Otherwise, we'll be heading to the concluding remarks so that we don't keep you beyond the time you committed to this event. For now, Dr. Amare, I want to give you another opportunity for 1 minute reflection on what you're hearing vis-a-vis your institutional building agenda for the Africa Continental Food Safety Agency. How are you going to deal with the informal sector, especially the policy angle?
Yes, thanks again. You know, addressing food safety in the informal sector is a priority in the food safety strategy for Africa as well. So, and the Food Safety Agency will be a custodian of the food safety strategy and will help implement the strategy. So I think we have no choice. Also, given the sheer number of players in the informal sector, which is who produce, sell the majority of the food in African market, as Dr. Ayalew was saying, we have no choice but to face the food safety issues of the informal sector head on. So there are a lot of things that can be done, as Koka was mentioning. For example, in the Uprise project, we're trying to come up with a regulatory model that you can implement in the informal sector, focusing more on awareness creation and capacity building instead of policing individual informal players. So I think there is a lot that can be done. As Monica was saying, awareness is key. The food safety culture is very important. That is foundational. And quality culture also related. So I believe in the coming years, Africa could move the needle slightly, to improve the food safety situation in the informal sector. By the way, it's not always the worst. It's not as bad as we think always. So
we don't know some.
We don't know for sure. So yeah, I hope there will be some change. But once again, thank you so very much for the organizers, for the great panelists here, for the great presentations. This was great and eye-opening, even to me. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. I mean, we have now reached the time where we have to say bye-bye. I mean, otherwise we're going to overcommit. So just few words from my end. Firstly, thanking all the panelists for sharing very rich insights, and to our audience for your question and your participation. We saw, mostly of them were, commending you for a great job. I mean, commending all the project and thanking the EU partners for supporting and co-learning with us. I think that is really very appreciated. So today's session reminded us that science is not a luxury. It is essential to building food systems that are fair, safe, and sustainable. It is the foundation on which we build preparedness and resilience. And I think we heard it from many of the projects that presented today. So as we continue these conversations during tomorrow's session, where we'll be listening to the young people, to the student, to the generation that will solve all these problems, I encourage all of us to take forward what we have heard today to our workspaces, to our communities, and our policy circles. And on behalf of the organizers and the entire team, I want to thank you for joining us today. Let's keep the dialogue going and the momentum growing. Stay safe, stay informed, and see you in the next session tomorrow. Thank you.